Welcome to the 3 Degrees of Freedom podcast, where we explore lifestyle engineering with our expert guests to bring you in alignment with your own 3 degrees of freedom, location, time, and financial independence. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Today, we're excited to introduce to you Mr. Andrew Stimson. He's a former farm kid from Southwest Iowa who started his journey playing professional basketball overseas before shifting gears into entrepreneurship and now real estate investing, and also fractional COO services, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He's the founder of Elevating Talents, a platform that empowers others to multiply their time and talents through commercial real estate. His superpower, from what he's told me so far in his form and from what I've seen online, is that he helps other people elevate themselves to become the best version of who they are, whether it's professionally or personally. His focus is on fractional executive work, sales, HR, and system optimizations, all of which highlight the most demanding third degree of our show, which is financial independence, while also aligning quite well with the other themes of location and time independence. Andrew, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Derek. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, this is a long time coming. We've been on LinkedIn and been following each other for quite some time. And I think it was just a matter of time that we had this on the book. So I'm glad that we were able to make it happen.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
For sure. So let's jump right in, man. Let's talk first. I basically talk about with all of my guests, which is which of the first of the 3 degrees of freedom, which is location, time, financial, do you feel that you're the strongest in right now? And which one do you feel like you want to develop a little bit more?
Well, let's start with the development more side, and that's
Okay.
that's one that is financial freedom, and so that's what I'm really working on. And one of the things I love about that is who I'm working with. That's what I'm helping them do too, and so there's a lot of synchronicity in that, and so financial freedom definitely what I'm working on developing more. And I guess right now, immediately, I would say it's not time freedom. I'm married. We've got 4 kids, 5 and under, and I want more time. I don't have it quite yet. I'm working towards that. So I would say location freedom. We're actually moving back up to the area that I grew up, Southwest Iowa.
Awesome. Hey, congratulations, man. That's great. Love that location freedom. And I appreciate the honesty and the transparency as well, because we just need more of that in this world. And I completely understand you. And in a lot of places, I can definitely relate with all of that. So let's
Mm-hmm.
start from the beginning. Let's talk about your journey from being someone who grew up in Iowa to then becoming a professional basketball player overseas and then
Mm-hmm.
becoming an entrepreneur back over here. I just want to hear a little bit more about your background so that we can all get a picture of where you're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up on a small farm outside of Clarinda, Iowa, which is the southwest corner of it. And I've got 3 older brothers and parents. And we were, in a lot of ways, it was a typical farm kid upbringing. We had crop, corn, and soybeans that planted. And then we had what you'd call animal husbandry. And so we had animals we took care of, hogs for a while. I had goats, about 300 Angora goats, which is they have mohair that people make clothes out of a lot. And then had, of course, my folks had a English bulldog business that they raised and sold English bulldogs to folks that wanted to have those little bullies with them. And so, one of the things that I think I'll start there that sort of was laying some foundation for entrepreneurship was what I experienced as a child growing up. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, but one thing that I did receive that far outweighed it, in my opinion, was just time. Is my folks, they spent a lot of time with us, and they lived the kind of life that allowed that. Farmers, there's always stuff to do. You can craft when you do it as well as the raising English bulldogs. One of the things that an example of that is when I went to college basketball, it was away from where I grew up. And let's say I played 133 games, something like that. My folks missed 2 or 3 of those, and the home games were 5 hours away. So, I mean, they were really committed to spending time with us and value that. And that's something that really stuck with me. And so they certainly had the location and time freedom. I mean, they were living where they wanted to and had enough time. And so I think some of that really was part of the foundation of what I wanted to do when I got older and got married and had kids, was I want to have impart significant time for my children, my wife, my children, and my community. And that's what's built into a lot of this. And a big reason why I said yes to commercial real estate and fractional COO work is I believe in the ability of those things to produce that for others and then for me. But when I was growing up, I was what you would call a gym rat. I was 7 years old. I remember it. And I was actually visiting my aunt in the Kansas City area, which is where we live now, Kansas City, Missouri. And I just remember that week, I had just come off of watching a movie called about Pistol Pete Maravich. And Pistol Pete was a guy that has long since passed away, but it was he played high school varsity basketball as an eighth grader. And then he went on to play college basketball, averaged like 40 some points a game, and played in the NBA for a while. But that was the first thing that really inspired me. Like, oh, I want to commit my life to being as good as I can at basketball. And growing up in a small town, I played every sport, but I was always working on my basketball craft and was certainly a gym rat in the gym, playing all the time. I had 3 older brothers to play with, and that was helpful. But if I wasn't playing, I was probably often imagining playing games in my head of what it might be like. And so a lot of my life, I would tell you that I had a lot of tunnel vision growing up, and it was my faith, it was God, and it was basketball. And I was very focused on those things. And early on, it was, I want to play in the NBA, right? That's the best of the best. I will tell you, probably by about my senior year of high school, I had played pretty high level AAU basketball, but I began to see that NBA was pretty unlikely. I'm
Okay.
6'1", I don't have long arms. And so then it kind of shifted. I want to play professional basketball overseas. That became the thing that I felt like on the SMART goal was realistic. And so I committed a lot of my life to do that. Played college basketball, had great team success, made a couple Final Fours, had not as great individual success. I played the role I was called to play and did it to the best of my ability. And then got the opportunity to play in Israel. We lived there for 3 months and played in a Palestinian professional league. And that was a tremendous experience. And then spent some time in Macedonia, which is just north of Greece by Bulgaria, a part of the former Yugoslavia. And then the last stint was in England. I coached basketball and helped develop by playing and helping win lower level pro basketball team in England. And so those were kind of the 3 stints, the 3 spots. But that life is a very insecure life in that there's nothing guaranteed. Even when you go and play as an American playing on a team, you got to produce. And if you don't, you might get sent home. And so it was, but I loved it. I was very thankful and felt like it was a real blessing to get that chance to play overseas and just experience it. And so it was a lot better finish than my college basketball career, which was a 3 dribble drive to the free throw line to elevate for my patented, like my best thing, which is a pull up jumper. But a guy was coming out to block the shot, and I faded away a little bit and I left it short and we lost. And that was it. And so, man, that would have been a rough way to go out. But I was real thankful for having those opportunities overseas to play. And basketball ended on a little bit higher note because of it.
That's amazing. And thank you for sharing all those incredible stories. And man, talk about location freedom. How did all of this translate to becoming a fractional COO in real estate after you came back?
Yeah. So it started actually, I came back and those experiences I didn't make a lot of money doing it, but they were great experiences. And so when I came back, I majored in exercise science, and I actually came back and was a full-time personal trainer at a small business in Kansas City area. And we would go to people's homes to train. And in time, I ended up, becoming the hiring manager, sales manager, and then spent about 6 years as the director of operations, just running the day-to-day there. I had about 15 people that I managed. And that was, I think, all those experiences, being in a small business, which is what I've been in my whole life or been around my whole life. I've had brothers that have bought small businesses and ran them for a time. I got to experience all those different things, which is a blessing and a curse. Small business, you got to wear a lot of hats, and you want to build it to the place where you don't, and you can really specialize and grow the business more. But having all those experiences I think we're real building blocks in building confidence in both fractional COO work and helping other businesses and commercial real estate. And so I attribute a lot of that into the about 10 years at the fitness company in the day to day of sort of building a lot of the skill set to then go and do it.
Yeah, I can see how a lot of this stuff would translate over. Becoming a fractional COO and trying to build a business or helping people build theirs while, running HR, sales, and having to have a little bit of a hand in each one of them. That's what makes a great integrator or a COO.
Mm.
Let's talk about what fractional COO means real quick. There's probably a lot of people that are wondering what that is. I've
Mm.
actually been hearing a lot about this recently, and it's funny. I'm actually doing that right now for my wife because she has her practice going on that I'm kind of working on as an integrator for both hers and my business as well, just because it
Oh,
makes sense to help
awesome.
cross over there. But can you talk a little bit about what it is that a fractional COO does and how that works?
Yeah. Well, you nailed it. And I was reading more about you and I saw that word integrator and I was like, yes, Derek gets it.
100.
And a lot of that for me came from Gino Wickman traction and the neural operating system. My focus is, well, one, you have a visionary and an integrator, and there's not many visionaries out there, but there's even less integrators. And I think in the small business world, there's so many people that have a vision and a passion and they use and skills and they use that and they start their business and they grow their business and they just grind.
Yep.
And eventually, and often this is one of the first hard things, is when you move the business beyond yourself and all of a sudden you have to start hiring and managing, it changes everything. And so then as you keep growing, whether you like it or not, you have to be an integrator. And a lot of times it's not the reason why you started the business. Some visionaries love managing people and some don't, and all the things that come with that. And so I really got to experience it at the fitness business, Front Door Fitness here in Kansas City, being that integrator, taking the founder's vision and implementing it into the organization, getting buy-in, and then just helping people grow. I met weekly with trainers one-on-one, and I love that part of it. It wasn't always easy, but it was an opportunity week after week to focus on the right things and to just help them grow in their career as well. And so, I think the integrator piece is just really essential for a business two ways. One, helping, founder, owner, CEO, whatever title you want to give, helping them focus on working on the business instead of in the business,
Yeah.
to where they can really focus on the things that are going to grow it more. And maybe that's more time for ideas. And then being the catalyst to get things started and growing. And then really handing those off to someone that can steward it well, that can maintain it, operate it, not let it drop off any, so that the business can continue to grow. So that's one. The second, it just gets back to the 3 degrees of freedom. And one of those just being time freedom. Is there's so many visionaries, founders that are working a lot of hours, and which there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but eventually something in your life, if there's not some balance at some point, maybe that's a relationship at home, a spouse, relationship with children or friends, but it's going to happen, and you see it over and over again. And I think it also can lead to burnout. Is small visionaries, they build it, but they're creating it where everything runs through them, and eventually that's going to burn them out or burn someone out near them. And so
Yeah.
that's something I'm real passionate about in helping.
Yeah, that's great. I think the fractional COO or fractional integrator is going to be an important part of businesses going forward. And I think there's a huge
Mm.
opportunity there to become more an integrator for different businesses together, because the way that you think, being able to break down a vision into executable steps and then be able to track them and making sure that you're orchestrating that the whole thing moves forward can take a whole lot of load off of a visionary who is really good at having great ideas and has really great ideas and has the passion to bring them through and maybe even the resources as far as like money
Mhm.
or knowledge. But as far as like the time and energy goes, that may be a different story. And so something that rings to me very true is the book E-Myth, right?
Hmm.
Just struck me as you were talking right now that in that book, the E-Myth, by the way, if the listeners hasn't read that book, I highly recommend that you do. E-Myth talks about the story of this baker who loves baking, and she decides to open up a business, and then the business just doesn't do so well because she thought that a business was all a business is about baking is just baking, and that's not true at all. And you have to be good at a business and at baking. It's like there are probably chefs out there like
Mhm.
Gordon Ramsay that are as good as he is, but he is fantastic at business. And he either has an integrator or is an integrator a little bit himself. And that's what all these people have in common is if you've got the integrator skill set or the brain, or you're able to bring in someone like Andrew, right? To be able to help you in your business, take your vision to become a reality in real execution, you're going to increase the odds that your business will be very successful and go to a successful exit, whether it's a sale or an acquisition or whatever, right? Or handing over ownership to a different entity. So anyway, I love that about the fractional COO, and I love it how you're helping leaders turn their visions into reality because that's what's so needed. And as things pick up more and more with AI and there's more business ideas out there, it's going to be more and more important. So I want to shift gears just once more, and talk a little bit about your Elevating Talents
Mhm.
platform. Can you talk a little bit about how that helps others achieve financial
Yeah,
independence?
yeah, yeah. I think with that, I'll start with a little bit of vision and mission. Elevating talents comes from a parable about an owner empowering, we'll call them managers, to over his affairs and in amounts of talents or bags of gold or whatever you want to call it. And there's this talents too. And that guy he goes out and makes 10 more. And to the next he gives five, and she goes out and makes five more. And 10 to another he gave one. And this manager, he, instead of going and putting that to work, he digs a hole and puts it in the ground. And then when the owner comes back, he says, years later, hey, show me what you did. And the one with 10 and 5 showed that they doubled it. And the one with 1 said, I know that you're a hard man and you reap where you don't sow. And so I took your money and I put it in a hole. Here it is. Take it. This is yours. And his response is, you wicked and lazy manager. You know that I reap where I don't sow. Why didn't you take it to a bank? At least I'd have a little bit of interest on my return. And so it's taking others' talents, and I see that is money, that is capital, that's resource. But talents, I that's an old word for money, but also talents as in like your own gifts and what you've been given. And that's really a part of my mission, is to help elevate that. It's elevating people in their life and elevating their resources. And it's so that, and it really gets back to, I mean, you're brilliant 3 degrees of freedom. It's so that you can spend more time on what you've been called to do and beyond your day job. And so that's the real focus. And it's commercial real estate's a big picture. I was very attracted to multifamily and have kind of been down that path. I started the business in January of this year, so almost a year ago. Before that, I joined a mastermind called Kingdom REI, where I really learned and grew from people that have gone before me. And throughout that year, really wanted a partner as co-GP, and so partnered on in the built to rent space with a lead sponsor that's been doing it for a couple decades, Andy McMullen, and a whole team that's got a ton of experience. And so I've really been growing and learning about the built to rent space, and a lot of the things that excite me about it are the same that do about multifamily investing and commercial real estate as a whole.
Thank you, man. That's great. I love that. I was going to ask you what inspired you to venture into the build to rent space, but I think it was a lot of mentorships and, people that have seen a lot of success in that space through Andy and his team. Did you want to add anything about the build to rent space?
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things that I like the most about it is it is development, but there's just such a huge value add component. I mean, that's the essence of development. And then just the exit optionality that comes with it. So you buy raw land, and then you get all the entitlements, the engineering, you get all the okays from local government, and uh, and you prep the land for stage two, which is horizontal development, getting all the roads and the sewers and everything prepped for vertical development, building the houses. And then you start renting them out and building that up, and then exit, about typically about a 5-year plan. But the exit options, they're not just in, you know, selling the whole, let's say we have 241 houses we're building and we could sell the whole thing. That's the goal. The more institutional investors more likely to buy that. But there's optionality beyond that. And it starts with each stage. And you get it all prepped for horizontal development. You've injected a ton of value into it, and you turn that you projected just in a much shorter time. And so that's the part when I talk about exit optionality that I love, is there's a lot of that built in as you go towards the end product, and excites me about it. And then, it's the same thing that speaks to the validity of multifamily, and that's the housing shortage. That's some of the trends of renting over homeowners. That's the gap between all those speak back into built to rent as well. That they're kind of some foundational things that make me like it.
Love it. Very cool. I know it's a fascinating space, and I'm actually new to it. I've been looking at alternative ways to get into the market outside of the traditional multifamily route, because right now the space is pretty crowded, and build to rent is very attractive in the fact that there's no maintenance. There's very low, like the cap rates are lower, but also there's more desirable tenants and less maintenance or less ongoing headaches that happen with that. And that's becoming more and more important to me as time goes on. That's kind of the point I am in my career at this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And one thing, that's helpful with it too is residents tend to stay a lot longer. And so that's certainly an advantage
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Big. Like the biggest expense that people have in operating multifamily is vacancy, because
Mm,
not only do you have just the time that they're not paying rent there, but you have turnaround costs, you have marketing
mm,
costs, you have your
mhm.
property manager who has to go and do all that. So all that is happening while you're rehabbing or basically refreshing the unit for the next tenant. So completely makes sense there.
Yeah.
All right. So last question I have for you today
Mm.
is, what advice would you give to people who desire to break the time equals money equation and try to gain more independence in either of the 3 degrees of freedom? What would you say there?
One of the first things would be, if you're waiting for the perfect time to start, you're never going to find it. There's not going to be a 100% optimal time to go. You can certainly enter that space. There's different levels of how much success you might have depending on how you enter. To steal the Nike's slogan is just do it, just get started, and that could be in a lot of ways. It could be simply just learning. I think a lot of gated through just education, you know, and something that you don't understand, it's going to feel riskier. And so I think learning, there's so many great content creators and podcast hosts like yourself that are putting awesome info out there for people to consume and learn and grow in their knowledge. But if it doesn't help catalyze movement, it's just head knowledge that isn't going to change your life in any of the degrees of freedom, namely mostly financial freedom, which typically then can lead to time freedom. And so that'd be the first one, is just get started. And then the second is around it, is surrounding yourself with people that have been there, or maybe are a few steps ahead of you, or are beside you in their journey, where you have that iron sharpening iron concept, but you're going on mission together, even if going the same direction in your own businesses. Those things I think are so important in doing it. And then when you're going to be a passive investor, just build a relationship, and once that relationship, best, and to do that. And so I think that's something that is on you and is on me and many others to continue to spread the message of, like, there's offers out there, and and I think that's a big part of it, is so many people just don't have that. There's a bit of a paradigm shift that goes with, before you take these steps to 3 degrees of freedom, and you've got to get there is just huge.
I'm going to go ahead. Sorry. So thank you so much for providing all of that. That's great stuff. I think very actionable for people out there who are looking to try to escape their full-time jobs. But let's go ahead and head into the last segment of the show because we're running out of time here, which is called the rapid round, which is 5 questions that we ask every one of our guests. And they're meant to be answered about 30 seconds or less. So let's see if we can
Okay,
rapidly ask them to you. So if you're ready, we're going to go ahead and do that. Ready?
let's do it.
All right. Number one, name any resource that was or is still essential in your journey to pursuing your freedoms.
Others that are on that same journey. So relationship accountability with other could be operators or just people close to me that are on that journey.
I love it, man. Good stuff. Great answer. Number two, if you woke up and your business was gone and you had $500, a laptop, a place to live, and some food, what would you do first to rebuild?
The first thing I would do is network. I would just start having conversations with folks and find out where they need help and see if I can help solve it.
I love that, man. Adding value first. So important.
Yeah.
All right. Number three, what does your self reflection and goal setting practice look like if you have them?
So goal setting, looking out, I think the essential is a year at a time. I think it's powerful to go 10, 5, 3 years, whatever you feel like, can be done. But goal setting, year long, break it down into quarters, 90 days, break that down to actionable steps, and then weekly accountability to reach those. That's the general format that I've got to take to increase the chances that I hit my goals.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Number four, what are the core work habits that you attribute to your success or parts of your personality that you attribute to your success?
One would just be determination, so setting out on a specific goal and then staying on that course. That's one. The other is I think that really builds into it is just doing hard things. And it could be, I've done a lot of hard things in fitness, but it could be in setting good habits that are going to lead to success. But building resiliency through doing hard things, I think is so empowering to go where you want to go in life.
Okay, awesome. Last question I have for you is what tool or process has become one of your most important time, money, or energy saving ninja magic tricks that you use every day?
Well, one that I've been using basically every day in 2023 is LinkedIn. And it's the idea of the one to many platform. And like you're doing with podcasting and building that. In the beginning, I'll be honest, you kind of feel like, is anyone even listening?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
am I just speaking to the wind out there?
Yeah.
But really trusting the process and day in and day out, consistent, doing it for the long haul and setting it up in a way that you can do it for the long haul is what I've really focused on for 2023. So that's one is just creating on LinkedIn.
Love it, man. Yeah, it's a great way to build at scale so people can see it or potentially have a way to see it or see who you are as a person. Because if you comment on other people
Yeah.
who are farther ahead of you, have more followers, and eventually they keep seeing your names over and over again, who knows? You may be able to hop on a Zoom call with them or have a podcast. And that's one of the main reasons why I'm doing podcasting as well, is to be able to network. And LinkedIn,
Mhm.
that on steroids. So very, very lucky. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. So, Andrew, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Before we go, how can people find out more about what you have going on? What do you have for them? Just giving you an open stage right now at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it really focused. There's a few things I could say, but I think the best way for people to get to know me in a way where they don't have to jump on a call. I would love to jump on a call because I really enjoy connecting that way. But it's just LinkedIn. Andrew Stimson on LinkedIn. I write about real estate, about fractional CEO work. I write a lot about what I call abundant life, which is a lot of things. There's faith wrapped up in there. There's your 3 degrees of freedom wrapped up in there. There's growth mindset wrapped up in there. But it'll be a great way to start to get to know who I am. Is just go follow me on LinkedIn and then let's take that to an offline conversation.
Yeah, that sounds great. Andrew, I want to thank you so much for being on the show and also to the listeners who have listened all the way to this point. Thank you so much for listening. And wherever you're watching this, please like, subscribe, comment, hit the notification bell. Whatever you can do to interact with us will help us bring our message out to more people just like you, and also attract more incredible guests just like Andrew to come on the show. So thank you so much for listening. Really, really appreciate your listenership. And Andrew, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a bunch, Derek. Thanks for having me on, and keep spreading your message of 3 degree freedom. If more people work and live towards that, they truly will have a more abundant life. So keep it up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. And you guys have an awesome week. We'll see you guys next time.